What I love about this business is like when I'm ordering stuff, generally I'm talking to the person who's making it. What can we do to make things easier for people to get out into the backcountry and to be able to try on a Light AF to a Gossamer to a Z-Pax to a ULA to a Hyperlight? Hi, nice to meet you.
How's it going?
Good, man.
It's been a little while, couple
yeah,
weeks.
Yeah, totally.
This is in no way like a sponsored video. Jesse gets feedback from customers. He has his own experiences with the gear and different products, different companies, way more than most of us will ever deal with.
I'm just a gear junkie when it really comes down to it. And so I think most of the brands that we carry, that we brought into the shop, are just things that I think are cool, or because our customers think, are cool and they've asked me to bring them in. So I like to think of us as like very community orientated. Like we on a weekly basis get people saying, hey, can you bring this into Canada? Hey, can you bring this in so I can take a look at it? Or hey, I'd want to try this backpack on. Most of our business is e-commerce. I would say probably about 70% of it. We do offer the ability for people to come into the shop. We book by appointment just because it's just Michelle and I. We have a couple employees, but generally it is just Michelle and I. I like to consider us kind of like a bespoke outfitter, where people can come down and like look at 7 different types of trowels or whatever it is. We carry, I would say, if you go to like in the Calgary area, Breathe Outdoors, MEC, we carry a lot of the same items that they would carry, like Osprey and whatever, just the big brands, Big Agnes and Nemo, whatever. But then we also specialize in a lot of like smaller, more cottage style companies, where they're made in North America, or the idea, is just one dude and he's outsourcing it, whatever it is.
People would normally have to order through
somewhere else.
Yeah,
like either
the company itself, often from the States.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So here we have Hyperlight. We pretty much carry Hyperlight's entire line. So we have anything from their duffel bags to pretty much their entire packs, all their accessories. We've got through packs here, some Light AF. They make a really nice fanny pack. I think their stuff is really cool because they do like printed designs on their materials. You can see some of their packs up there too. Nightcore, which in my opinion is probably one of the best tech companies out there. I think for price point and quality, I think they make just the best battery banks and headlamps. Hilltop packs, Space Bear bags, Hartford gear. And the cool thing is what I love about this business is like when I'm ordering stuff, generally I'm talking to the person who's making it, like Georgia from Hartford, or Chris from Space Bear, or whatever it is. It's just sweet that like you have a relationship with the people who are making this stuff, and when you go to give them feedback, it goes directly to them. And it's just it's a really sweet process, rather than some of the larger companies. You're dealing with a sales rep, and generally that sales rep will switch every 6 months. So that's what I like about the cottage stuff. All Man's Right, those guys are super sweet. We're actually going to New York soon, which is really cool. I think they're from the Bronx. Chicken Tramper. Here's some Enlightened Equipment. These are the accessories like the booties and the torn mitts and the hoods. We've gone through a lot of different polls recently, like we are Lakey and we have our house brand, and we just brought in Cascade Mountain Tech, which I'm really excited about because they make kind of like a really budget-friendly pole. Like they're $40, which is awesome. Western Mountaineering, which is new to us, carry all their booties. Gossamer gear.
I just got a pair of those from you, by the way.
Oh, they're so sweet.
And
really
I wore
nice.
them on the last trip.
Saw that.
They're very toasty.
Yeah, good.
They're very cool.
Good. We carry some hunting stuff, like really cottage-style hunting stuff. Stone Glacier, EXO mountain packs we're working with right now, which would be really cool to carry. Mystery Ranch is another hunting line. We do very limited apparel, like Torrid jackets from Enlightened Equipment, Sky Goat hoodies, Grumman pants from Stone Glacier, and then the odd thing like Ghost Whisper jackets and Helium. But really, what we try and stick to here is hard goods, which is unlike I think any other shop out there. Generally, when you go into MEC or Breathe Outdoors or VPO, whatever it is, you look at their floor, and I would say about 70% of it is apparel, where we don't really do any apparel. we try and stick to actual hard goods like the backpacks and sleeping bags and whatever. So we do our house brand stuff too. Like these are some really good budget chairs. These are $44. And yeah, most of our house brand stuff, we've always like had the idea of like, let's sell it for as cheap as we possibly can, to try and make it, a really affordable option for people. So yeah, some of our house brand stuff. Excuse the mess over here. Vado hoodies, there's sleeping bags in the back. We do mostly quilts here. We sell, I would say like 70% quilts over sleeping bags, but we carry, like the Nemo Discos and some more budget-friendly style sleeping bags. Then we also have Western Mountaineering, EE, Enlightened Equipment, hammock gear, UGQ, Catabatic, like you name it, we've pretty much got it. Hammock gear tarps, which are really sweet. Here's kind of more like sleeping accessories, pillows, Lawson cordage, which is really good. Over here we've got sleeping pads. This is new to us. This is Z-Packs, which I'm so stoked on. Probably going to take a Z-Packs tent for myself this season. We've got the offset duos, pretty much their entire tent line. And then we have a bunch of their packs coming in. I just placed an order with them this morning. Hyperlights tents, from the Ultimate to the Mid 1 to whatever, they're all there. Water filters and accessories are kind of over here. Get out of here, Riggs. And then just more of our house brand kind of accessories. There's no reason why somebody should pay $30 for a dry bag when it's made out of silicone impregnated nylon. So we sell ours for like
they're worth nothing.
$10. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Like you look at outdoor research, and I love outdoor research, but whew, it's expensive stuff.
Yeah,
So,
it doesn't make sense that a stuff sack is $30 and a backpack is whatever it is.
Yeah,
it makes
the price they make a lot of money on their accessories, that's for sure. And then food, we carry a really good mix of food. You kind of have all your breakfasts and snacks here. We sell little packets too, like just to make things easier for people, like little single serve olive oils and hot sauces.
Those are super hard to buy as an individual.
Yeah.
Like you can get them off of Amazon.
Totally.
But you've got to buy 500.
Yeah, that's right.
So pretty neat that, and this kind of stuff, like I'll pack a bottle of olive oil for a multi-day trip, but
just
for an overnight trip or whatever, and like that's a really good way to up your calories.
Yeah, and like I think like how things like that, I just think, what can we do to make things easier for people to get out into the backcountry and for people to get out and experience these things? And so little things like that I see, and I'm like, oh, this is a great idea, and bring them in, and we test them out and see, and then if they sell, then we bring in more. And food wise, we're kind of selective on the brands that we carry. We carry a really good mix of Peak Refuel, which is I would say quite popular. So West Coast Kitchen, their hummuses and their guacamoles are really good. Flat Out Feast, which is probably my favorite meal. I know you've had it. It is honestly like...
I love them.
Yeah.
There's something different about them. They're delicious.
Yeah.
And
they're locally made.
The
calorie count and the protein is like, you get a single serve pouch that's 60 grams of protein and nearly 700 calories, and freeze dried, which is really cool. And it's basically just meat, cheese, vegetables. It's a super cool company. We love carrying their stuff. Wild Mountain Eats, which are made in Alberta in Vulcan.
Never heard of those.
Yeah, they're pretty good. They're dehydrated over freeze dried, so they take a little bit more time to rehydrate. But yeah, the flavor profile is really good. And then tents. Here's all of our tents. We carry, the DCF tents are over there, and then this is all kind of like your sil nylon tents, or polyester or whatever, sil poly, whatever. Six Moons and Tiger Walls and Copper Spurs and Daggers and whatever. We have them all. So
very cool.
Yeah, and then there's smaller stuff over here, like all your little accessories, like bottle caps and SKS bottles and graffiti bands and BRSs and all just little cork massage balls. These are new. We just brought in these like little tiny cork massage balls. You want one of those? Yeah, one of those.
Sure.
There's like the bigger one too.
Hey, I do. You never know.
Yeah, well, you roll at your feet. These are actually like honestly probably one of the top 10 things that sell in this room. So
But these little things too are, I mean, they can make a huge difference on your trip and your planning and all kinds of stuff like that. And again, super hard to find online, super hard to buy one.
Yeah.
And generally speaking, when you do buy them at big stores, you know, a pack of a couple of these things will run you $30.
Yeah.
And I don't know what this is, but
Those, we bought these for toothpaste tabs.
oh, cool.
Or like little pills. It's like a little pill box, so you can put your, you know,
Cool.
ibuprofen or
Yeah,
your
yeah.
toothpaste tabs in there. Whoops. So yeah, they again, just like looking at different things that would make life easier. Here's another pill bottle too.
All right. Cool.
Make things easier. So socks, we don't carry a lot of different socks, but I think what we do carry are pretty much the best. So we carry Injinjis, which are really popular for you know, toe socks. Darn Tough, which is probably the #1 sock maker, and then we also carry Montley Wool and Mills, which are a local company. And honestly, I would stack this sock company up to any other company out there. They use 80% wool versus like 60-70%, and yeah, they're probably one of my favorite socks on the market. And he's a local dude. He started out his business just like we started out. He runs it in his garage. You know, which is where we kind of came from too. We operated from a garage for 4 years before we moved into a commercial base. So, and that's it. That's most of the shop. There's, you know, like some displays. There's some titanium stuff right here. You know, we've got the Titan stuff, which is discontinued. They came out with a new Titan line from MSR, which I'm super stoked about. I actually just placed an order with them this morning.
This one's my go-to winter.
Yeah, that's a sweet. Have you seen the new ones?
I have. I mean, I haven't put hands on it. And this
Yeah,
is,
they
you know,
look nice.
I have one of these and I've used it for coming up on 20 years.
Yeah,
Like
it lasts.
the same one.
Yeah, the Vargo stuff is really awesome. Like,
the bot.
yeah, the Bot Pot and the Bot XL. Basically, you can cold soak in these guys. They've got a sealable lid, which is super sweet. They're kind of the only company doing that. We work closely with the Great Divide Trail of Canada too. So here's some GDT merch. We're basically their store. When you go on the GDT site and you go shop, it'll connect you to GearTrade, and we sell all their merch for them, which is really cool. The proceeds go to the GDT. So we just like working closely with them because it's something local. It's something that we're really passionate about. We donate a bunch of money to them every Christmas after our Advent boxes go out. Yeah, it's sweet.
This is a gear junkie's paradise. There's stuff here that you'll never see at a big box store. You know, you can come in here and basically outfit yourself with specialty gear and never have to order something from another store, and then you're dealing with one place. It's pretty neat, and it's definitely a curated selection of things based on your,
I would say and then the community too. Like the community, like I don't have a ton of time to do, you know, a lot of research because we're busy. We got 2 young kids, we're running a business. I would say it's the community that kind of drives a lot of these products. You know, somebody coming in and being like, hey, have you seen, they just came out with a new model ULA pack, or, you know, hey, have you seen this? Can you bring in this? Like that really is what drives our business, is the community kind of telling us like, dude, have you seen this? You know, and then I start doing research, and then I get stoked on it. And usually when people are telling me, like in the shop, as they're telling me about something, I'm usually like writing them an email being like, hey, you know, this is who we are, and, you know, like, do you want to do business? So it's a cool little process.
pretty organic.
Very organic, I would say. Yeah, very, very organic. So, but
Awesome.
yeah.
So that's the tour. Through and through, it's a backpacking store.
Yeah, that's our like our
That's your
niche is definitely like backpacking, whether it's you know, you're going backcountry backpacking, or like we've started to branch into the backcountry hunting market. But backpacking is kind of our core market. And then there's so many things like, you know, car camp, whatever it is, day hiking, all those things are encompassed by backpacking. But backpacking is like, we are a backpacking outfitter.
Definitely, there's a focus on the cottage company and ultralight or lightweight gear that is probably a little bit underrepresented at your typical outdoor store.
Yeah, so to me, the people who are pushing the industry are all these little makers, right? And that's like, I love bringing in things that are made by a husband and wife or whoever it is, right? Because typically they're the people who are innovating new products that are like super practical or functional or whatever it is, and then the bigger companies kind of trail in behind that. But yeah, I would say like most of the companies that we carry here are cottage based, so little makers, and I love that. I mean, it's my favorite part of my job is connecting with these people and finding out what their story is and what led them to make this little bag, whatever it is, right? Like I truly love that. So
people don't know what a cottage company is. It's typically kind of a one-person show who does everything from design to manufacturing in-house.
Yeah, for sure. Sometimes in their living room or in their basement.
Small scale.
Yeah,
small scale production.
Yeah.
Very specific things. And that's, I've been in the ultralight world since the mid-2000s, and it's tricky to get that gear. First of all, like you'll hear about it through some way, but you can't put your hands on it.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what separates us is like, sure, you can buy a lot of these things from the maker themselves, but to actually be able to come down and like backpacks in particular, like, man, there's such a specific thing that to be able to try on a Light AF to a Gossamer to a Z-Pax to a ULA to a Hyperlight to a whatever is like, they're all very similar backpacks in design and functionality and weight, but they fit very differently. And that's kind of what separates us is you can actually come down here and like try them on side by side with 30 pounds of weight in them and see, how does it actually feel before buying a $600, $500, $400 backpack. So
yeah, they're not cheap.
That's the one thing about cottage industry stuff is typically if it's handmade, it is typically higher end, and there's a quality associated with that. But yeah, definitely I would say on the more expensive side of things. So
what are some things that you're super proud to have in the store that you're excited about, that is, if you were to outfit, and not maybe not if you were to outfit yourself, but what are some of the stuff that you think is really neat to have it really, again,
I'm surrounded
unique.
by it.
Yeah, it's everything.
it's I would say most things in the shop, the reason why they're in the shop is because I think they're cool. And yeah, like I get really stoked to bring new things in more or less because I want to use them. I want to be a user of that product. So yeah, like literally I look around and everything here is something that I've either used or I brought in because I want to use it. I mean, the cool thing again about, like, it goes back to that like cottage kind of industry. Like you have all these people who they're working on one individual thing and they kind of master that one thing or maybe 6 things, whatever it is. And yeah, they're just like really cool items. Like recently we brought in, there's a Canadian maker, Sulik, is it 46? Sulik 46? They make little pot lifters and they make a variety of different things. But one of the things that I'm really stoked on is they make a thing called a Yuki buck saw. And I think it's like I want to say it's less than 16 ounces. Hacksaw, like buck saw, and we're sold out right now. Otherwise, I'd show you. But yeah, I was super stoked on those, but yeah, I just get to see all these cool things. Like literally, I'm surrounded by cool things, in my opinion. So Z-Pax is relatively new to us. We're the only place in Canada carrying their products, which is cool to be able to try on like the Arc Call. We have a bunch of the 60s and the Arc Call Zips coming in, which I'm stoked on. It's probably the pack I'll take this year. Vargo is a new one. Spud stick stashers, those? They're like little magnets that you can like clip your.
Oh yeah.
So those are new.
You carry cottage gear, but you also carry some big names.
Yeah, we carry Nemo, Big Agnes, like anything that you'll find at like MEC. We also like Helinox, all the big brands.
MSR,
Thermarest, like the whole Cascade line. Because like cottage companies, they fill a good market, but they can't, I don't think they can fill it all. So it's still good to have these like bigger brands that, can offer also lower price point, things, right? Like you look at some of the Osprey backpacks and they're like $200 to $300, $200 to $400 versus the cottage company, which is,
and they work,
and they're fine.
Like
they're
fine. Tons of people do tons of camping and can be, I say it all the time, you can go out and get a big brand tent, backpack, sleeping bag,
Yeah.
and sleeping pad, and I think you can have right off the bat a easily sub 15-pound base weight.
Yeah.
Definitely, you could push it down to sub 12 pounds if you kind of knew what you were doing. I think it's a little bit easier with some of the cottage gear,
Yeah.
especially when you get into quilts
For sure.
and some of the
You're
lighter
getting a
packs.
more niche specific item. I mean, you look at like sleeping pads in general, and there's only a couple kind of manufacturers of the quality pads, like Nemo, Big Agnes, Thermarest, and Sea to Summit are kind of the big four. I don't know why they haven't.
I think it's the manufacturing. You know, they're
Yeah.
manufacturing them with pressing and different techniques
For
than
sure.
someone can do at home with a sewing machine.
Yeah, like I cut open a Tensor Extreme yesterday
Yeah.
and looked inside of it, and it was like, holy crap.
Yeah,
This is like,
that would be a tricky one.
well, you just look at the construction, and it's like this took some serious manufacturing. So
You have the cottage, you have the big brands, top sellers. Is it across the board?
I think backpacks are probably the like top seller in this shop, and I think why that is because like I've been fitting packs for a long time, and so a lot of people come here specifically to get a pack fitted. So I would say like backpacks are pretty much our top selling item because we specialize in that. But yeah, the big four like tent, sleeping pad, backpack, sleeping bags, or those would be the biggest selling items in the room for sure.
And your clientele you're an e-commerce store. Is your clientele, and we're in Canada, so we're in the shadows of the Rocky Mountains here.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people that are going out doing hard trips, and we're near the GDT, so there's a lot of that. But
For sure.
Your main market, is it Canadian overall?
Yeah, I would say like almost all of our business is in Canada.
So what I'm really curious about from your perspective is, as a person who sees and literally physically touches all of these different products, one person can only use so many different pieces of gear, but you definitely get, I'm sure, a ton of feedback,
Yeah.
good and bad.
Yeah.
What are things that people often come in and either discourage, that you're like, maybe you should go this way, maybe for that's not for you, or they're very set on a specific piece of gear, and you think, well, maybe there's other stuff out there.
Yeah, I think backpacks, again, like, I think about this 3 days ago, we had two people come in, and they just recently bought a Gregory Balturo and a Gregory Diva. And I think the day and age of carrying a 6-7 pound pack is coming to an end. And so I think, you don't have to go super ultralight or ultralight, but I don't know why with the gear that's on the market, why somebody would want to carry more than 40 pounds. And, having a 6-pound backpack is a really good way to get up into that weight category.
Yeah.
So typically when people come in, I look at, the stuff that they have and maybe, how much money they want to spend. And it's pretty easy to start knocking pounds off your pack weight pretty quickly. So to me, I try and discourage people from carrying a super, super heavy backpack, because it's a pretty sure way to have, not the best experience, especially if you're a beginner. So
And you'll often hear people say, I'm not interested in ultralight at all. And there's kind of this aversion to it. And it's not necessarily about being ultralight for the sake of being ultralight. There's just a huge advantage to carrying less heavy gear with you.
more refined.
100% more refined, more modern.
Yeah.
I look at a lot of the big name brand heavy packs that are still on the market. I can't understand why they're still there.
Yeah.
And a lot of what makes that pack weigh 7 pounds has absolutely nothing to do with how well it works.
Yes.
It's
yeah.
doubled up materials. It's extra this, extra that.
10 pockets. It's
All kinds of pockets,
Yeah.
all kinds of stuff. It has nothing to do with, if you strip down to the minimum, you have basically, what's one of the original, like the ULA pack that you would put a dry bag in.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, they used to make, it's a frame.
Yeah.
It's a frame.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
an internal frame bag with nothing else.
Right.
And it's designed to carry whatever load you need.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to have specific pockets for all kinds of stuff. So it's pretty interesting. And then you do have all of these packs that are, they perform super well.
Yeah,
they're just
on par with some of the heavier weight, packs. Again, it's a more refined system. And I think that the most common thing is that people think that if you go ultralight, or light, whatever, I think, throwing the word ultralight out there gets people, like you said, kind of turned off. But you don't have to sacrifice comfort. That's the biggest thing.
Or performance.
It's
like for me, it's more performance, and comfort is an individual thing.
Right.
But when I'm out on the trail, and whenever someone's out on the trail, a huge percentage of that time is the comfort comes from how much stuff you're carrying.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's still interesting to me that some of the packs out there still weigh 7 pounds.
You're looking at one, the Osprey Aether and Ariel.
Yeah,
I don't know why we carry them. So
those are things that I bought 20 years ago.
Yeah,
the packs were
great 20 years ago, but I think things have just progressed.
Yeah,
so,
definitely. Yeah. Do you ever find that you make that recommendation and then someone comes back and says, "This pack, like it didn't work for me," or are most people coming back saying, "Wow,
thank you."
Thanks. Like I went out last year, or for the last 15 years I've been backpacking.
Yeah.
And I made these changes and I've come back and it was more comfortable, more fun. Or are people coming back going like, this pack doesn't work?
People do come back and and I tell people, when you purchase a backpack, go out, take it around the block, whatever it is, load it up, make sure it's going to work for you. People come back more so because the fit of the backpack, not because the functionality of the backpack. So, and that's just a personal preference thing. I think it's pretty easy for people to decide when you load up one of these packs and you put it on the ground and you put 30 pounds in one and you put 40 pounds in another and they pick them up. It's a quick realization that, 30 pounds, if you can get to that total packed weight, that's the way to go. So very rarely do we have people come back, after they have a proper fitting pack. I don't think it's ever happened, and complain about
how it performs.
Yeah, how it performed. It very rarely does that happen, or if ever.
And again, it's just my impression that, especially one of the modern packs that's also designed to carry weight. I mean, I'm not talking about the ultralight, 450 gram bags. They only work with a certain, you put 20 pounds in them, you're pushing that bag.
Totally.
You put 30 pounds in them, you're going to have a rough first day. A 2-pound backpack, 2 to 3 pound backpack is very capable.
Yeah, especially like you get up into the 3-pound backpacks and they have like a 50-pound carry load, like the Granite Gear Blaze, like that pack is kind of an anomaly in the sense that it is still a sub 3-pound pack with such a high carry load. But
still wouldn't recommend carrying 50. Most people aren't going to have fun carrying 50 pounds.
No.
Even if you're like, that's I think an important distinction is that even if your pack can handle 50 pounds,
doesn't mean you need to carry.
Carrying 50 pounds is not fun.
Yeah.
Regardless.
Yeah.
And especially depending what you're doing, there's going to be
sufferfest.
It's a sufferfest.
Yeah.
Someone out there is going to need to carry 50 pounds sometimes.
Yes.
They're out for an unsupported 20-day trip.
Sure.
You need 40 pounds of food.
Yeah.
But for your typical, most people are doing overnights.
Yeah.
A lot of people are doing 2 nights and 3 nights.
Yeah, or West Coast Trail, 6 nights, whatever
6
it is.
nights.
Still, it's like you too can get your weight down, and it doesn't need to cost a fortune, right?
Yeah.
It's just it's about a refined system, about figuring out what is of value in your pack and what is not. The biggest thing that you can really put in your pack is experience, right? Like experience, I think, and that only comes with time, right? Like it's literally just you learn over years and years, like, I've taken this whatever and I haven't used it in like the last 7 trips. Why am I still packing it?
I've done this with multiple people where they are brand new, and I know that the only way that they're gonna enjoy it is if we go light right away. And you can do it with 100% standard gear.
Yes.
A Big Agnes Tiger Wall.
Sure.
2-pound tent.
Yeah.
you know, a 2-pound backpack,
Yeah,
a
Osprey
1 pound,
Exos, Osprey Asia.
100%.
Yeah.
And these are big name brands,
Yeah.
nothing crazy to them.
Yeah.
Then a 1-pound ground pad
Yeah.
and a 2-pound sleeping bag.
Yeah.
And you've got
A really nice setup.
You've got a really nice setup that works for anyone at any skill level. You don't, and in fact, that tent is probably where a beginner wants to start, because it's sort of.
That tent is fantastic. That's a tent I'm going to take this year.
It's a fantastic. It's an amazing tent.
I love the Tiger Wall. Yeah.
Tiger Wall is an amazing tent.
Tiger Wall 2 is the tent I'm probably going to take on my trips this season.
Copper spur, a little bit heavier.
Copper spur's good. Yeah, a little heavier, a little bit more like, you know, like typically how it works is the heavier the item is, the more the comfort kind of increases. And so, yeah, the copper spur, fully freestanding, you know, double wall with the 2 flaps that open up. So it's a nicer tent, but at a heavier weight.
What's your dream?
Dream like
product.
That's, I mean, I've had conversations with Dan Durson. We would love to carry the Kakwa because people want to come down and compare it to all the other kind of packs in that category. So I would love to see that in the shop. The X-Mids, obviously, again, we've talked to them. Maybe down the road, that's something that might happen. I hope. But Tarp Tent is another company that I think that will be probably coming down the pipes pretty quickly here. Huge fan of like the double rainbow design. So we're hoping to carry those in our shop. And really, like, I think a lot of the new brands that we bring in, it kind of happens again very organically, and it happens almost the day of, right? Like people come in and they're like, dude, have you seen this? Or, and then I literally like I said before, I hop on there and I write them an email as I'm talking to somebody. So those are kind of the things that I get really excited about. But the big ones, would be like, I would love to carry Dan Durston's line, Tarp Tent. I think Z-Packs was one of the ones that I really wanted to carry, and now we have it, which I'm really happy about. So,
where do you think there's market gaps in terms of innovation?
I think the biggest thing is like a lot of these ultralight companies, they're getting quite expensive for people to obtain. So I think creating something that is a good kind of balance between price point, functionality, weight, all those things. I think that's a market gap that I think we're going to see more of.
Dyneema, a DCF alternative.
Doesn't need to be DCF. Totally.
But that's what
sure.
I mean. Something that performs like Dyneema.
That's a cheaper made material.
That
you're not sacrificing a lot of things, but it can be, in the $200 to $300 price point versus the $500 price point. So
$1,000 tent.
$1,200 tent.
$1,200 tent.
$1,300 tent. Like it's
no joke.
Yeah, they're expensive, and I think it's tricky because you start looking at the dollar amount per gram saved, and it gets to a point where it's like, is it really worth it? Is it really worth it?
It's about $100. I'm making this number up. I think it's about $100 to save an ounce or 30 grams.
Yeah, I think it depends on what category you find yourself in. Like we get people often who come in that they're at 45 pounds, and to shave, pounds, it's about $100 a pound to get to say 35 pounds. And then when you're at 35 pounds, it goes up to like $200 a pound. And then when you're at 30 pounds, it goes to $300 to $400 a pound. Like I think as you start to decrease your weight, the dollar to decrease that weight is going up and up and up and up. So at some point, it just gets to a point where you're so low already that to drop a pound, you're spending thousands of dollars.
The other thing is that, again, you can shave off, you can go at it that way. And that's, in my mind, the right way is to go after the heavy hitters first.
Yeah, top 4.
The top 4, but also this, you can get a lot of those top 4 down to be extremely light for a pretty reasonable price. 2-pound tent can be a pretty reasonable price.
Yeah.
And if you go after everything else, you can have a super lightweight, efficient, high-performance system before you even need to go to a DCF tent.
Yes. Yeah.
What do you really get? And I think that's where there's. I mean, that's partly educate, and that's partly trends. Everyone has a DCF tent now. I remember when DCF tents were coming out, people were saying, who's going to spend $1,000 on a tent?
Yeah.
And now that's what everyone has.
Yeah.
The reality is that if you have a 25-pound base weight and a 1-pound tent, there's something that's a little bit backwards there.
Yeah, for sure.
Now,
Yeah.
if you have a 10-pound base weight and you really want to get it down to 9,
Yeah.
you're kind of left with
Totally. DCF tent.
the DCF tent and
Yeah.
a really minimal shelter.
Yeah.
But I always find it interesting when you have someone who has a 7-pound backpack
Yeah.
and a 13, a sub 1-pound tent.
30-pound, whatever it is, like a really heavy base weight, and they're coming in looking for an ultralight pack, and I go,
It's not gonna work.
it's the last piece of the puzzle. You need to figure out your other items before you get to that last piece, right?
Yeah.
You can't have a heavy loadout with a ultralight bag. It's just you're not gonna have a good time.
Deal with those 4 in kind of one shot.
Yeah, or like you can start with like you could do a pecking order, right? Like tent, sleeping pad, sleeping bag, quilt, whatever, and then backpack. But you're right, like really the big 4 are kind of like
They're a system.
Yeah, you just like within 1 season, 2 seasons, whatever it is, but those big 4 are the biggest way to dial your system. So
Someone walks in, they tell you I'm hiking the West Coast Trail, or I'm hiking something like Rockwall or Skyline. That's here, maybe out east. I don't know what a typical out east trail would be.
the East Coast Trail.
East Coast Trail. I'm from out east, and
Yeah.
yeah. Like, what do you say? Okay, no, these are the 3 or 4, the big 4, reliable. You can't go wrong with these.
Osprey Exos is probably like the Ija and the Exos, because you still get a 2.7-pound pack.
Yeah, that's a light
for around $300. So I'd say that's a really good budget-ish pack. Tent wise, if you want to go freestanding, I would say Tiger Wall would probably be a good route. Price point of those are pretty decent. And then if you wanted to drop more weight, you could go to like a Lunar Solo by 6 Moons would be a really good pick. So that kind of gives you it's a non-freestanding tent, but 2 options there. Sleeping pad, Big Agnes Rapide is probably our like go-to recommendation. In a wide, it's $260. R value 4.8, about 630 grams. So I think that's a really good value pad. And then honestly, like for most people, I'd recommend going straight to a quilt. I'd say if you're going to spend the money in one area, a quilt is kind of the amount of comfort you gain using a quilt, and the pack size and the weight, whether it's a Hammock Gear economy burrow, which we sell, or a UGQ or Enlightened Equipment Revelation. But I would say that like those 4 items, you get a really nice loadout for like a relatively decent price. So, but yeah, quilts is, I would say, over sleeping bag is probably the biggest recommendation that we.
Do you have much pushback on that?
Some people are really adverse to, like, they just don't understand. And actually, Michelle, my wife, was really hesitant to use a quilt, not really understanding, that you don't need that bottom layer of insulation when your pad is insulated. It keeps you just as warm with, the weight down and the pack size down. So some people come in and they're like confused by the idea of quilts. I do think they're gaining popularity, so I think more people are starting to understand that it's like, hey, this is actually like a really, effective way to increase your performance of your sleep system.
And, a lot of the more lightweight packs are slightly smaller volume.
Yeah.
If you try and get in
synthetic,
a
4 pound.
synthetic,
Yeah.
Your classic synthetic mummy sleeping bag, you're going to use up half of your pack right then and there.
Totally. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like down over synthetic is typically what I recommend, just because the volume, the pack size is just so much smaller. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Hey, no worries. Thanks
so much for having me.
Yeah, Kane. Yeah.
And maybe I'll be back.
Yeah, I'm sure you will.
If you made it this far in the video, I just wanted to say thank you. I hope you enjoyed it. That was really the point of doing this, was that whenever I go to GearTrade and talk to Jesse and his wife Michelle, we just talk about gear. That's all we do. We talk about backpacking and gear and stuff like that. I really do hope that some of you, especially in Canada, his market is Canadian, that You know, it helps him. I would love that. He's a small business. He's a really great guy. Jesse and Michelle are really great people. If you're not from Canada, I really don't know what the deal is with shipping and getting stuff outside of Canada. I don't want to go there. You guys can go check out GearTrade.ca. He has really some fantastic products. The goal of GearTrade is to help people in Canada get some of these products because it's challenging for us, especially from the cottage companies, and he's curated that all together. If you found it interesting, I really do appreciate the thumbs up, and I hope there was some value in it to see what someone running a small business like that deals with, their thought process and all of that. This was the first time for me doing a kind of interview, so I was kind of out of my element. I had a lot of things going on in my head. I was thinking of all kinds of things at once. I had multiple cameras going at once. So it was kind of like watching someone learn how to ride a bike for the first time. So that's kind of special in its own way. So again, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it.